My husband accused me of cheating after a DNA test said our daughter wasn't his. I begged him to believe me. Then my sister said, test yourself. The clinic called 3 days later. Your daughter isn't biologically related to you either. A few weeks before that phone call, Ryan had ordered one of those home ancestry kits. His father had been adopted, so he'd always been curious about that side of his family. After getting his own results, he ordered a second kit for our 6-year-old daughter, Chloe. I didn't think anything of it. Ryan joked that they might discover she was related to royalty. Chloe spent the next 2 days drawing herself in a crown and ordering us to address her as Princess Chloe. Then Ryan came home from work early one afternoon. Chloe was sitting at the kitchen table drawing a family of purple cats. Ryan walked through the door, saw her, and stopped. He didn't take off his coat. He didn't kiss me. He just stared at our daughter with a look that made my stomach tighten. I asked what was wrong. He said, not in front of her. Ryan barely spoke during dinner. Whenever Chloe asked him a question, he forced a smile, but the second she looked away, his expression changed. After we put her to bed, he placed several printed pages on the kitchen counter. I recognized the logo from the DNA company. He tapped the report and asked, is there something you need to tell me? I stared at him. What are you talking about? The test says Chloe isn't mine. I laughed. Not because it was funny. It was the kind of laugh that escapes when something is too absurd for your mind to process. I told him the company had made a mistake. Ryan didn't laugh with me. He asked whether I remembered the wedding I had attended around the time Chloe was conceived. I had gone alone because Ryan couldn't get time off work. I said, you cannot seriously be asking me this. He asked if I'd gotten drunk. He asked if there had been someone from my past. Then he said, is there anyone else who could be her father? Something inside me went cold. I told him no. Ryan was the only person I had been with during our relationship. There was no affair, no forgotten night, and no second possibility. He paced around the kitchen while I repeated that the test was wrong. Finally, he said, then we get a real one. I agreed immediately. I believed a supervised test would end the conversation. For days later, we sat in a clinic while a counselor explained that the official paternity test excluded Ryan as Chloe's biological father. Ryan read the report twice. Then he looked at me and asked again if I had cheated. I said no. He stared through the windshield after we left and whispered, I don't know how to believe you. That sentence hurt more than if he had screamed. Ryan packed a bag that night and stayed with his brother, Mason. We told Chloe that Mason needed help at his apartment. She accepted the explanation because she trusted us. Ryan came home every evening to see her. He helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and acted almost normal until she went upstairs. Then he became distant again. He didn't insult me or threaten me. He simply looked at me like I was a stranger who had stolen 6 years of his life. His mother advised him to protect his finances. My own mother told me to be patient because the test looked convincing. Even people who claimed to believe me asked whether there was something I might not remember. I went through old photographs, messages, receipts, and bank records from the year Chloe was conceived. None of it mattered. There was no way to prove that another man had never existed. A week after Ryan left, my sister, Grace, found me sitting on the laundry room floor with one of Chloe's baby socks in my hand. She sat beside me and said, what if you test yourself? I stared at her. I told her I had carried Chloe. I remembered every appointment, every kick, and every hour of labor. I still had the hospital bracelet with our names printed on it. Grace said, I know, but something is wrong. This would give us another fact. The suggestion felt insulting. Testing whether my own daughter was biologically mine meant admitting that nothing in my life felt certain anymore. 2 days later, I went back to the clinic. The call came 3 days after that. The woman spoke slowly. The results show no biological relationship between you and Chloe. I told her she had the wrong file. She read my full name and date of birth. I accused the clinic of mixing up the samples. She said they could repeat the tests with all 3 of us present. Ryan came home for the appointment. We watched the technician label every sample. We checked our names, identification numbers, and dates of birth. A week later, a genetic counselor met with us in person. The results were conclusive. Chloe was not biologically related to Ryan. She was not biologically related to me either. Ryan asked, then whose child have we been raising? The counselor couldn't answer. The hospital where Chloe was born opened an investigation. Nobody said the word switched at birth. They called it a possible identification failure. They called it an unusual event. They called it a matter requiring further review. Then someone asked whether we remembered any disruption on the night Chloe was born. I did. A winter storm had damaged part of the hospital's electrical system. The emergency generators kept essential equipment running, but the electronic infant tracking system went offline. Several newborns were moved to another section of the building while staff used handwritten transfer records. Chloe had been taken from my room shortly before midnight. A nurse said she would be gone for an hour. She was gone almost 4. When they brought her back, she had an ankle band with my information printed on it. I never questioned it. The investigation later found gaps in the transfer records. 2 infant bands had been reprinted after the tracking system failed, and the handwritten times for 2 babies overlapped. The hospital still refused to state exactly when the mistake happened, but the DNA results made one thing obvious. The baby returned to me that night had not been the baby I delivered. Ryan came home after the hospital confirmed that another family might be involved. He stood in our hallway and started crying before he could speak. He apologized for accusing me. Part of me wanted to let him hold me and pretend the previous week had never happened. Another part remembered how quickly he had left. He said, "I thought the test proved you lied." I said, "And I thought 10 years with me meant something." He didn't argue. Ryan moved back into our bedroom, but that didn't repair everything. He carried guilt, and I carried anger. Neither of us knew what the hospital would find. 2 weeks later, our attorney called. The hospital had identified another girl born 47 minutes after Chloe during the same disruption. Her name was Olivia. Her parents, Hannah and Daniel, agreed to genetic testing. Olivia was biologically related to Ryan and me. Chloe was biologically related to Hannah and Daniel. Our attorney placed Olivia's school photograph on the table. She had Ryan's dark eyes, my smile, and the same small gap between her front teeth that I had before braces. I was looking at a stranger. Somehow, I was also looking at my daughter. Hannah and Daniel asked to meet us. My first answer was no. Our attorney assured us that they weren't demanding custody. They wanted information and a chance to understand what had happened. That didn't calm me. All I heard was that Chloe's biological parents knew where she was. I stopped posting photographs of her online. I checked the locks before bed. I researched whether another family could challenge custody after 6 years, even though our attorney repeatedly explained that the law would consider the girls' established homes and emotional bonds. Ryan thought we should meet them. When I asked why, he said, "They're raising our biological child." I heard only 2 words. Our child. I asked, "Then what is Chloe?" Ryan's face changed. "That isn't what I meant." I accused him of seeing Olivia's face and immediately wanting to replace the daughter we had raised. He said, "I love Chloe. Nothing changes that." I reminded him that one test had already changed it once. The second I said it, I knew it was cruel. Ryan went quiet. I didn't apologize that night. The truth was that Olivia frightened me too. I didn't know whether meeting her would create an instant connection or none at all. Either possibility felt like a betrayal of one of the girls. A few days later, Hannah emailed me directly. She wrote that Olivia was her daughter in every way that mattered and that she had no intention of taking Chloe away. She also wrote, "We can't pretend either girl doesn't exist. They deserve to learn the truth from us, not from another DNA test years from now." I read the message several times. I still didn't want to meet her. But I understood her. We agreed to meet without the children. Hannah and Daniel arrived before us. Hannah stood when we entered, then sat back down because none of us knew whether a hug would be comforting or inappropriate. For the first 20 minutes, we talked like people attending a business meeting. We discussed the investigation, the lawyers, and the tests. Then Hannah opened a folder of photographs. There was Olivia at birthday parties, on a camping trip, and holding a cardboard telescope she had built for school. Hannah told us Olivia loved astronomy, refused to eat tomatoes, and slept with socks on even during summer. Ryan laughed softly. He sleeps with socks on too. The sound nearly broke me. For one brief moment, Hannah and I weren't looking at each other as threats. We were 2 mothers searching another child for pieces of ourselves. Then Daniel asked if they could see a photograph of Chloe. I had several in my bag. I lied and said I hadn't brought any. Showing them her face felt like handing over something they might claim. Hannah looked disappointed but didn't push. I hated the lie before we reached the parking lot. Our attorneys recommended that both families work with a child psychologist before introducing the girls. The psychologist met with us separately. She told us there was no painless solution. If we revealed everything before the adults could control their fear, the girls might believe they were being exchanged. If we waited too long, they could feel that all 4 parents had conspired to hide their identities. She suggested gradual contact while we prepared for the full conversation. The girls met for the first time at a public park. We told them our families had recently learned they were connected. Chloe ran toward the playground before I finished talking. Olivia followed her. Within 10 minutes, they were arguing over the climbing wall. 5 minutes later, they were laughing. I stood beside Hannah and watched them chase each other across the grass. She said quietly, "Chloe moves exactly like Daniel." My first instinct was to defend something that didn't need defending. Instead, I asked whether Olivia had always tilted her head when she concentrated. Hannah smiled. "Since she was a baby. My mother does the same thing." The girls met again 2 weeks later, then several more times over the next few months. We alternated between neutral places and our homes. Every kind gesture from the other family carried two meanings. Ryan bought Olivia a small astronomy book. I worried it was too personal. Hannah gave Chloe a bracelet with a silver bird because Chloe loved drawing them. I helped Chloe fasten it around her wrist while trying not to imagine Hannah doing the same thing. None of us behaved perfectly. Ryan and I argued about boundaries. Hannah wanted more frequent visits. Daniel worried that the girls might become confused about what to call us. The hardest moment came during a visit at our house. The girls were building a puzzle in the living room while the adults discussed the hospital's proposed settlement in the kitchen. Ryan used the word biological. I told him to lower his voice. He said we couldn't keep treating the truth like something dangerous. Neither of us noticed Chloe standing in the doorway. She asked, "What does biological mean?" All four adults froze. I said it was a science word. She looked at Olivia, then at me. "Is that why she looks like you?" My stomach dropped. I told her we would explain later. She frowned. "You always say that when something is bad." That night, Chloe asked why Ryan had stayed with Mason. She asked whether we were getting divorced. Then she asked if Olivia was really family. I answered carefully, but she knew I was hiding something. The following week, her teacher called. Chloe had become distracted in class and cried after another child said she didn't look like either of her parents. The psychologist told us that the secrecy was creating more fear than the truth might. Hannah wanted to tell both girls immediately. I asked for more time. Ryan said we had already waited too long. During the next meeting, I said, "Once we tell them, we can never put their old lives back." Daniel replied, "Their lives already changed. They can feel it even if they don't understand why." I left before the meeting ended. When I got home, Chloe was standing on a chair beside the kitchen counter. She had found Olivia's photograph inside the hospital folder. She held it beside her own face and looked at their reflections in the microwave door. Then she turned to me. "Mom, am I really your daughter?" I said yes. I answered too quickly and too loudly, but it was true. She was my daughter. Nothing could erase 6 years of bedtime stories, school mornings, scraped knees, and nights spent sitting beside her when she was sick. But that wasn't the question she was really asking. I knelt beside her and said there was something important we needed to explain, but I wanted Ryan there too. Her eyes filled with tears. "Are you sending me somewhere?" That ended the argument about waiting. I pulled her into my arms and promised she wasn't leaving. Ryan came home within 20 minutes. We contacted the psychologist, then Hannah and Daniel. The next afternoon, both girls sat in the psychologist's office with all 4 parents. The psychologist explained that the hospital had made a serious mistake when they were babies. She used simple language. She said Chloe had gone home with Ryan and me, while Olivia had gone home with Hannah and Daniel. Neither girl spoke at first. Then Olivia asked, "So I was supposed to live with them?" Hannah answered before anyone else could. "You were supposed to be safe. You were safe with us, and we became your family." Chloe asked, "Do we have to switch now?" All 4 of us said no at once. The psychologist explained that the parents who raised them were still their parents. Learning about their biological families did not mean either girl had to leave her home. Chloe started crying. She asked why we had pretended Olivia was just a distant family connection. I told her we were scared and wanted help explaining it properly. She said, "You should have told me you were scared." That sentence stayed with me. We had tried to protect the girls from fear while filling every room around them with it. Olivia reacted by asking questions. She wanted to know whether she looked like me as a baby. She asked Ryan if he liked astronomy. She asked whether Chloe and she shared grandparents. Chloe barely asked anything. For several weeks, she followed me from room to room. One night, she asked whether I would love Olivia more because Olivia came from my body. I said no. Then she asked whether Hannah would love her more for the same reason. I told her that none of us was replacing anyone. We were learning how to make room for relationships we hadn't known existed. It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was honest. The following months were complicated. There was no custody battle. Nobody tried to remove either child from her home. The conflict came through smaller decisions. How often should the girls meet? When should they meet extended relatives? What should they call their biological parents? Should both families attend birthdays and school events? Every choice carried more weight than it normally would. For Chloe's 7th birthday, Hannah and Daniel attended the party. When Chloe blew out her candles, Hannah covered her mouth and turned away. I knew exactly what she was feeling. Understanding it didn't stop it from hurting. 2 months later, we attended Olivia's birthday. Olivia ran to Ryan and hugged him when we arrived. I saw Hannah tense. For once, I was standing inside someone else's family moment. After the party, Hannah and I sat alone in her car. She admitted that she sometimes imagined the life she might have had with Chloe. I told her I sometimes imagined the same thing about Olivia. Neither of us apologized. Thinking about the life we lost didn't mean we wanted to destroy the lives our daughters already had. The hospital negotiations took almost a year. The first proposal offered therapy expenses and money placed into accounts for the girls. Our attorneys rejected it because it treated what happened like a simple billing error. The final agreement funded long-term counseling, education accounts, future genetic testing, and an independent review of the hospital's infant identification procedures. The hospital also gave both families a written acknowledgement that its process had failed during the emergency transfer. We accepted. A public trial might have turned Chloe and Olivia into headlines. Their names, photographs, and private lives could have become material for strangers to debate. The settlement didn't fix what happened. It gave the girls privacy and support. Ryan and I began marriage counseling too. The hospital mistake explained his suspicion, but it didn't erase the week he had treated me like a liar. I told him that when he left, I felt disposable. He said the first result had made every memory with Chloe feel like evidence of a life he hadn't understood. Our counselor asked whether I truly believed I would have reacted differently in his position. I wanted to say yes. I couldn't. I still believe Ryan should have trusted me longer. I also understand why he broke. His mother eventually apologized for advising him to protect his money. She said she had been trying to protect her son. I told her, "You protected him by deciding I was guilty." She cried. I accepted her apology, but we never returned to the relationship we had before. The girls are 8 now. They know exactly how they are connected to both families, and they know they are staying in the homes where they were raised. They see each other twice a month and more often during school breaks. Some days they call each other sisters. Other days they insist they're only friends because one of them refused to share something. Chloe still loves drawing. Olivia still loves space. Ryan built a shelf for Olivia's astronomy books. Daniel helped Chloe make a frame for one of her drawings. The first time I saw that frame in Chloe's bedroom, jealousy hit me before I could stop it. Then I remembered the astronomy shelf. This is what our life looks like now. Nobody won. Nobody received the daughter she was supposedly meant to raise. We kept the children who already knew us as mom and dad, then made room for the children we had lost without knowing they were missing. Sometimes Olivia sits beside me and I recognize my own expression on her face. Sometimes Chloe falls asleep against my shoulder and biology feels like the smallest fact in the room. Last week, I found both girls asleep on opposite ends of our couch after a movie. Between them was the photograph Chloe had once held against the microwave, trying to understand why Olivia looked like me. She had written something on the back. 2 families. No switching. I returned the photograph without waking them. I don't know whether we told them at the right time. I'm not sure a right time existed. Chloe is my daughter. Olivia is part of me. Neither truth cancels the other. But I still wonder whether I was wrong for trying to delay the truth, or whether any mother in my position would have wanted a little more time before everything changed.